This is Lori Elliott of Conceptually. Welcome back to Mapping the DNA of an Idea. This is Module 7, Unpacking the Seed Model. Our main focus in this module is to practice unpacking the rest of the seed model for business, project, or venture. In the previous module, we talked about how to elaborate the solutions, stakeholders, and stakeholder relationships components of the seed model canvas. In this module, we will continue going through the components of the seed model canvas using the case study. I will also explain more about the external factors of a seed model, including what you need to understand and unpack the external context factors that can influence a venture. Now, as a reminder, this is a recorded version of a live workshop, so there are some adaptations and pauses in here for facilitators and for activities. So let's take a look at the module objectives. First of all, you're going to learn how to describe all of the internal factors of business models. Then we will focus on describing a venture's external context and how it can affect a business model. Next, you'll learn how to describe the external factors of business models. And finally, you will combine all that you've learned about business models to articulate a business model using the seed model canvas and concept document outline. And of course, you've already been doing this process, but doing this activity and finishing out the seed model canvas will actually give you plenty of practice for your own venture. So let's dig deeper into the remaining internal factors of the seed model highlighted here. The first or front page of the seed model canvas represents the internal factors or the actual business model for your venture or project. Looking at the key resources and activities section, resources are things you need in order to complete different activities. Examples include facilities, equipment, land, and personnel. Activities are what you do to get your solution to the customer. Examples include manufacturing, sales, logistics and transport, or marketing. Activities can also involve handling transactions with customers, like collecting payments, handling complaints, asking for feedback, and all of that can really be put under customer support, or trial marketing a new product or service. Looking at the channels and partners section, channels are organizations or people that help you get your product to market. For example, your ecosystem or a network that connects you to your customer base. Also, more traditional channels like wholesalers and distributors. Partners are those who are strategic in delivery of your product to your customer, such as a manufacturing partner or an integration partner. They are core to the success of your business model. Now, looking at costs. Costs are things you have to pay for in some way or another, things that take money out of your bank account or deplete resources. Costs can be tangible and intangible, such as opportunity costs. For example, if you can do a certain thing, what else can you not do now? What does doing one thing prevent you from doing? It is anything that takes away from your available resources, and this can be obviously, first we were talking about our opportunity cost, but costs in general, anything that takes away from your available resources, not just money. It can be less direct than money, such as time, personnel, equipment, usage, office space not being used, all of which can be indirectly tied to money. And also there are fixed and variable costs. Now, when we talk about benefits and revenues, benefits can be tangible and intangible. Tangible like money, or intangible like social capital. For example, if you start getting fans or followers on social media for what you are doing, that's a huge benefit, even though it's not monetary revenue. Now you can do more with your marketing budget because you have fans who will repost or email your promotional stuff to friends. So for this component of your seed model, you should look at all of the forms of value that are being created or can be created for you from your venture. Another example is how you engage your stakeholders and how that creates or can create value for you. Now, the last few components are unique value proposition and impact. The unique value proposition answers this question: what are the benefits, the key things that differentiate you and your solution from others? You can also refer to our more extensive description in Module 6. For example, you could say that you are a one-stop shop and the benefit to customers is convenience and getting an integrated solution so they don't have to waste time trying to piece it together themselves. Impact answers the question, what impact do you want to have environmentally and in society? And again, this is just a very basic definition. There are many other things that you can look at in terms of impact. For example, do you want to provide jobs or a healthier lifestyle for children? One thing I want to mention is that we suggest you work on the unique value proposition and impact last, after you work on both the internal and external factors of the seed model canvas. The unique value proposition and the impact of your venture generally begin to emerge after you have a good handle on your business model overall. Now that we've reviewed the rest of the internal factors for the seed model, we will dig deeper into the external factors. After that, you will be ready to do the main activity for this module, which is to finish the seed model canvas you have been working on for the case study. Now, when we talk about external environment, there are different components, and this diagram shows the key elements of the external context of a business environment. If you compare this diagram with the seed model canvas, you can see that this diagram does not reflect all of the external context elements on the canvas, but it does show the major ones. The diagram shows your business at the center. The business's environment includes the competition with your business, the ecosystem your business is a part of, and the broader context or society that the business interacts with. These contextual elements represent many variables that are underneath these large categories that your business must navigate. Now let's talk about dynamics of the external context. The dynamics that affect the external context of your business include speed, typically very fast, continual change, complexity, and a good amount of chaos thrown into the mix. Bottom line is that the dynamic environment of a business consists of changing surroundings that requires adaptation to new situations or unpredictable obstacles or problems. This dynamic environment is what we are living in, but many companies are dying because they do not understand how to survive and thrive in such an environment. Our methodology is designed to work with a dynamic or transformative strategy. This helps you embrace the dynamic environment and create order from it. So now looking at the broad context, this includes a variety of factors, okay, outside of your business that may impact or influence that business. You typically cannot control these factors, or you will have little influence over them. The business environment includes these factors, also known as PEST: political, economic, social, and technological. And just to give you an idea of some of these, political example is the results of a local, provincial, or national election, changes in laws or regulations. An example of economic is a global recession or currency inflation within a country. An example of social factors, changes in views on morality or religion due to demographic or cultural shifts. And technological example, increased access to the internet in remote areas or a new cancer drug. Now, these all fit under the context component of the seed model canvas, and we actually have 14 areas that we ask you to look at, but this is just a highlight before you take a deep dive. Now, just take a moment with the facilitator and see if you can provide other examples of PEST factors. Okay, so now another component is the stakeholder ecosystems. And we really don't have to speak of this because we had spent plenty of time talking about stakeholders. So I just wanted to bring this up as a reminder. Even though stakeholders are central to your business model and are noted as internal factors, they are actually part of the external environment. However, depending on how you orchestrate your ecosystem, you can gain more influence. Looking at competition, consider how the nature of economic competition has changed over the years. Traditional competition exists when two or more entities compete directly or indirectly for customers. Now, however, we're seeing more companies collaborating with their traditional competition. This is now considered the norm, even if it isn't yet pervasive. Many companies are either doing this now or planning to do it. No company, not even a mammoth company like General Electric, can adapt to everything by themselves, so they need partners. This new type of competition is beginning to put small and medium businesses on a more level playing field with larger organizations. If you find a unique space that you own, you can collaborate with your competition. When you collaborate with your competition, this is called co-opetition. For example, if you can leverage your social capital to bring in partners and form relationships with other organizations, you can be small but still play in the big boy space. When designing a business ecosystem, we advise trying to build in co-opetition, where you are not directly competing with competition. You want to be able to find a very unique space where you are the first mover and hopefully the only. Okay, you're carving out your own space. It can be actually a subspace within a market. We don't go into a lot of details about how markets are structured here. And again, it's in further programs that we have. But the idea is that everyone should be moving in their unique space. Okay, and that's something that you can be transformative, you can keep it moving, and it's unique to you. And so for us, it's the same thing. We have a very unique space. There are components of what we do that look like other people, but the way we combine it and new elements we add, we actually have created our own market, which we call ecosystem economies. Okay. So you and your competitors support one another. And so again, you can leverage their resources, their IP that they let you, and and so on and so forth. Now, I just want to give a little bit of advice about this. This does not mean that I'm saying you give everyone every access to every part of your company. You need to be strategic. You need to find out what you're willing and can share without giving all of your IP over to someone else's use. Okay, and this is always a balancing act. Okay, so you definitely want to have a strong ecosystem. You definitely want to collaborate and share, but there are parts that are wholly yours that should not belong to anyone else, because you are the one that has the ability to make it happen. Now, this is advice that I give people all the time. Protect your IP until you're sure that you know who you can work with. Now, another strategy is to develop something that it's very hard for them to replicate. Now, because we have a lot of parts and a lot of components and different things we do, it's very hard to compete with us right now. And I think it'll be a long time before that. Not that I'm trying to challenge anybody to try to compete with us directly, but there's just a lot of parts, and a lot of those parts are not even, clearly articulated to the outside world. So, so unless they know what's going on internally, it's very hard for them to replicate it. So, that is one thing. Another thing that I found is that a lot of people who do products, like in chemicals or things like that, they're coming up with unique compounds, and they're doing things interestingly. They're not actually going for patent protection, because patent protection, what many of them are telling me, is that it actually allows the government to determine where and when you can use your IP. And then, because it's registered and you have to put the information in great detail, that means that people know what your IP is. Okay, and so how they protect it is by making it virtually impossible for anyone to actually copy it. So I think we're going to probably be seeing a trend where people are going to be developing things differently, or in terms of figuring out different ways of how to protect their IP. So again, I just want you to always be willing to collaborate. Okay, we all should be that, but at the same time, there's a certain amount. That doesn't mean that you give everything away that you have. Collaboration is not, just letting anyone in to have access to everything. Okay, so that's just a bit of advice, because often, Entrepreneurs can be one way or the other. They don't want to share any information, and or they're willing to share and they're open, and they end up sharing too much. Okay, so just think about that before, include that in your decision-making process. So here are just a few examples of traditional competition and co-opetition. Traditional, General Motors and Toyota compete directly for automobile consumers. Co-opetition, Xerox partners regularly on certain business lines with competitors like HP and EFI. And on collaboration, Microsoft and Apple have collaborated on products like the Bing search engine. Okay, so now let's take a look at unpacking the external factors on the seed model canvas. The context area includes 14 categories of contextual factors that can influence your venture. That includes politics, technology, social, economic, and other variables. We did not discuss all of these areas, but you will see them as questions in the concept document outline. The community area is where you can describe the community or communities in which your business is located and where you do business. For example, do you have a storefront? Are you in a shopping center, mall, or business park? Are you part of a downtown, suburban, or rural community? What is the surrounding community like? Are you connected to the community, and if so, how? And are you leveraging your community connection to increase your sales or engagement? Are you creating relationships with stakeholders in the community that will be important over time? Note the distinction between key stakeholders in the community versus community as an external stakeholder. When we speak of community as an external stakeholder, it is a broader context. Here we're talking about a community as a group rather than as a specific organization or individual leader who happens to be a part of the community. For example, the local city council may be a key stakeholder for your specific project, but the entire town, viewed more broadly as a community, is part of the external environment in general. Now, ecosystems and networks, we're actually talking about ecosystems other than your own, because remember, we always talk about you need to create your own ecosystem, which becomes a support ecosystem for you. And the reason that you look at that is you look at, do they create dynamics that work against you or for you? So they might present problems or opportunities, but even problems can be opportunities. Okay, just remember that. So identify existing ones and those that you can join. For example, you can identify a way for your venture to play a significant role in all or part of a network or ecosystem. Ask yourself how you will address each ecosystem and network. Do you know the gatekeeper? How do you begin to develop relationship? Clusters are typically geographic concentrations of companies in the same line of work. They might be in the same value chain or the same type of companies like IT. The proximate geographic location and concentration allows them to provide more value to each other, even if it's indirectly. Certain things happen just because they are clustered together. For example, that's the case with Silicon Valley. Clusters can be planned or organic. They can grow more or less spontaneously. There are certain advantages to having a large density of companies in a given type of industry or value chain. A value chain is a series of businesses and middlemen that make up the process view of the business model, including raw material producers all the way up to customers or end users. The last three categories, local, regional/national, and international, can be used to identify and document other external factors that do or may affect you at the local level, regional/national, and international or global levels. Here you can identify, again, a vast variety, okay? The reason that I put this in is that people don't often think of local versus regional versus international. They may know a lot about the local, but they don't see how the bigger trends impact them. And so because it is a globalized world, you have to account for different dynamics, okay? And so that's why these are included on the seed model canvas. So some examples of those could be cultural, weather and climate, environmental, geography, and geology. And of course, those are also under context, but what this helps you to do is then kind of segment between, is it local? Is it a real local impact? Is it regional, or is it international? Okay, and you can separate out, the geographic aspects. So you can almost look at any one of these external factors to see, like context, community, all of these, and then subdivide some key ones if you think that they need to also be looked at from a geographic perspective. Examples of local and regional factors include trade agreements, import-export, and international trade laws and standards, institutions, behaviors, and trends. And I'm sorry, that actually examples of local, regional, and international. Again, you want to also use this section to look at trends and driving forces in the industry, or any other impactful thing that will impact your business model. Now, we are going to take a look at unpacking the seed model. So for this one, this is a group activity. You will work in the same groups you have been working in for most of the day. I will assign each group 2 to 4 components from the seed model canvas. You should use the concept document outline to unpack the remaining components as you have before. However, this time you have more time to dig deeper. You have 1 hour to complete this activity. After that, we will debrief. If you have any questions, please refer to the facilitator, and the facilitator will put me on pause now. Okay, as time is up, let's now do the debrief. As the facilitator calls out a component, if your group was assigned to unpack it, please share it with everyone. And afterwards, after you do that, the facilitator will also work on asking if you have any questions or comments, and then we'll allow 5 to 10 minutes We'll then move on to the module summary, and there we'll just talk about this module, and then of course have 5 or 10 minute Q&A. You'll have an opportunity with the facilitator to hopefully clarify anything that has been unclear for you up until this point. So now go ahead and start, and put me on pause. Now, before I actually get to the module summary, I just want to highlight something that I did mention earlier in this workshop, but it's very important for you to understand. The information that you pull together into the seed model canvas is what you can see about the seed model. Just as you can only see a small part of an iceberg, though, above the surface of the water, it's very much the same with a seed model or with the business model, okay? And particularly you are at the idea stage. So this is really only the very top peak. It's very high level, it's not even at the waterline, okay? So yet you'll see that if you look at this iceberg, that there are so many layers below the water, right? And these are things that are important that you're going to need to dig into to fully develop your seed model. The iceberg analogy highlights how much more usually needs to be learned and done when developing a venture, even if you already have a business model or are currently in business. For example, if you're producing a cell phone, you have to develop manufacturing, sales, operations, finance, and many other parts of your business to make your business model work. Sometimes people get really excited about this seed model canvas tool because it is a powerful tool. I love this tool myself. They're headed in the right direction, but even with tools like the seed model canvas, it's actually still quite a process to develop a business model. It takes time. It is hard work. The obvious pieces that can be easily gathered, documented, and implemented in the business model development are a small fraction of all the pieces required. It takes time and effort to dig more deeply, to uncover and develop the not so obvious pieces. I want to give you a realistic idea of what it's going to take to get from your initial idea to implementation. You will not be able to do this by yourself, at least not in a reasonable amount of time. The product may suffer without a team because team synergy can improve the results. In the last module of this workshop, I will also cover some ways to build your organization, offer ideas on next steps for implementation, improve chances for success, and other useful tips. You have to persevere to be successful. Success will not come overnight, but if it does, that's great. But also remember that you still have to build a sustainable venture that will last over time, and that does not happen immediately. Developing the less visible parts of the iceberg, so to say, takes persistent work. Now, let's go over what you've learned in this module. And really, you can kind of bring the things that you were learning all day about the seed model canvas, right? Because we spent pretty much all day working through this, okay? And it is a powerful tool. So as you go through each of these points on the slide with the facilitator, have a discussion and unpack in every area things that you learned, either about the information that you didn't think that you knew that you should provide, and it gives you a new perspective, the process, the activities, the structure of the ideation process. And if you remember, we still are in just ideation. We'll do a summary in Module 8 to bring all those pieces back together again, but we've been on the seed model canvas, which is still part of ideation. This is your initial seed model. The process that we have modeled here is just taking you through the ideation stage. Now, the great thing, though, is that even though that's a very early version of whatever your seed model is going to be, because you have, in particular, the seed model canvas and the concept document outline, you can keep iterating and actually work to get your business model more mature. Okay, you don't have to stop. Those tools are there. You can use them as much as you can. And for some of you, you might actually have business models that are more mature. You just haven't really had the opportunity to see how well you can fit all the pieces together. Okay, and so these provide an excellent opportunity for you. So please put me on pause as you and the facilitator have a discussion about this. And remember, you should also discuss any questions that you need. Have a Q&A, take an extra 5 or 10 minutes to get through all of this. And then after you finish, I will come back and close out the module. Again, you can put me on pause. Well, I hope that this particular summary was very useful to you, because obviously now you've all had a chance to practice, and in a group, people learn different things. And so that's one of the great things about having a team effort, right? And so I hope that your discussion was very insightful, and the feedback that you were getting, that other people were learning and doing, and even issues that they came up with are useful to you, because you can learn not only about your own experience or through someone teaching you, but you can also learn from your peers. So this is the end of Module 7. And again, this is Lori Elliott. I want to thank you, and I look forward to speaking and working with you in Module 8. And so I'm signing off.